Well, good afternoon, everybody. Get today's training started. So if you don't know, my name's Henry Lowry. I'm the vendor analyst here at IHCDA. You've probably heard from me before. Today talking is also going to be Tom, who's the EAT manager of the program here at IHCDA as well. So he'll be here to answer questions in case anybody has any. So speaking of, hope everybody just stays on mute throughout this. There will be portions of this where we'll take questions multiple times throughout this, and including a Q&A at the end. So we just ask that you stay on mute otherwise, but use the hand raise function if you'd like to ask a question, and then we'll call on you. You can come off mute, or at any time you can put those questions in the chat, and then we'll get to those questions during those question sections. So I think that's it for housekeeping. So today we're going to be going over our yearly vendor training for bulk fuel vendors. So let's get started. So today we're just going to cover just some little successes from this previous year. We're going to go over some pretty big changes for the PY 2025. We're going to cover some common questions and issues, go over just contact protocols, and then we'll have that space for Q&A. So just some quick stats from PY 23, this season that we're just wrapping up now. So this year we all served over 122,000 Hoosiers. So you can see the claims, that the average claims here. And I think like what you can see here with this average claim amount is that this is not a world-changing amount for clients, but it can be world-changing for some clients. I think that's like pretty interesting to keep in mind. So we're doing really good work here. But, yeah. Okay. So this is our timeline for the program year 2025. So there's a little bit of changes here that we're going to go over, but I'll kind of go through this real quick. So October 1st is opening day of PY 2025. That is when the online application opens to the public. That is at 8 a.m. And then this is when our local agencies, our LSPs, distribute their mail-in applications to households who are not at risk. So on November 1st, that is when in-person appointments can begin. And that is actually the first date that you may see a transmittal. So that is also when notification letters go out to clients. So December 1st through March 15th, you don't need to worry about moratorium protection since you are bulk vendors. And on April 14th, that is the end of the EAP application period that ends at 5 p.m. Eastern time. On April 28th, that is when all incomplete EAP applications must be fully processed. May 12th, last day to submit transmittals. And May 26th, that is when all vendors should be reconciled. So the end of that season, where's the date? April 14th, that is actually a month earlier than previous years. So we'll get into that here in a bit, but just keep that in mind. That's 1 month early. So like I just said, we have shortened the season by a month. So April 14th being that date. That is, so due to likely funding delays, just kind of like what we saw this last year, I think we should set this expectation that you should not see any payments until December. So that should give the federal government enough time to get the funding down to us, and then for us to share that funding out to our agencies, and then that gets processed and then sent out to vendors last. So, and then obviously on the clients. So just keep that in mind. We just want to set that expectation. We don't really quite know what to expect, but we want to be prepared this year. So a couple other things going on. So we are looking at a tech system change. I don't really have any news for that just yet. If you've been following kind of my email blasts, we pretty much just announced that selection process. So we're not ready to make any announcements yet. There's going to be more news coming. That is not going to impact this season. So don't worry about that. But that is kind of one of the reasons why we're shortening the season by a month. So that changeover process next summer, we'd have a little more time for. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So some other changes that we've made. So due to a decrease in federal funding levels over the last few years, we've decided to change our benefit calculation. So we estimate that that is going to be a reduction in average benefits by about $200. If you have a program that uses our eligibility process to determine your own eligibility for a program and you have questions, please just reach out to me. I can get you copies of that benefit matrix or help you navigate that. So just let me know. So the other major change is we have decided to reduce the maximum credit balance. And that is for bulk deliverable fuel utilities. That's a $500 or more credit balance makes a client ineligible for benefits. So that is at the time of their application, what they have on their bill. So if that amount drops below 500, your client can return to their local agency and possibly get a benefit if it's available. So it doesn't come, but they will still be eligible. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So just kind of quickly went over some big changes there. Do we have any questions? So again, just please use the hand raise function, or you can use the chat at any time as well. So we'll take a second here.
I also do want to share, because I know that we have someone in here who is actually on the phone instead of the computer. I have been muting everyone as they come in just to make sure that we don't have any crosstalk or feedback while we're presenting. But for the person who's on the phone, if you do need to ask a question, you can unmute yourself by pressing *6. You can also actually raise your hand so that we can see it, even though you're not on a computer, by pressing *5. And that lets us know that you have a question, and then we can kind of manually unmute you. So just wanted to put that out there since I saw we had someone on the phone.
Thanks, Tom. Cool. Well, no questions right now, so we'll just keep moving. So we're going to go over some common questions and issues. So the overpayment and refund summary form. This is the #1 question that I've received over the last year. What is it? When do we use it? So this is actually this summary form that I'm going to show you here in a minute. We require this anytime you send money back to IHCDA. So it's a uniform form for everybody. It provides all the information that we need when you refund money. Using it helps our claims and fiscal staff track and accounts for all the returned benefits and ensures the funds are applied to the correct grant. And then obviously that's going to reduce the waste of public taxpayer funds. So, and it can also speed up when we do benefit transfers. So when an applicant moves to a different utility or fuel provider, and we host this all the time on our resource page, which we'll have links to later. So you can see what this looks like. So it's pretty straightforward. We just ask that you throw this in the mail with any check that you send back to IHCDA. And if you can't find this, shoot me an email. I'm happy to give it to you. If you happen to send a check back and you forget to include this, you can always email this to me and I can go ahead and forward it to our operations team. That's very helpful as well. So we just really ask that you include this information anytime you send money back to us. So really appreciate that. So yeah. Okay. The #2 question we get here is, what are allowable and unallowable expenses? So EAP funds may not be applied to deposit fees, commercial or business accounts, garbage, water, or sewage bills, unsafe heating devices, service or insurance plans, repayment of fraud or theft losses, tampering charges, setting an LP tank, optional services, or any expense not directly related to residential energy consumption or delivery. So in general, EAP funds must provide continuing service, and a vendor may not accept EAP funds for a closed or inactive account and apply them to an outstanding amount owed unless that account is going to be restored. So keep in mind that this list is not exhaustive. It is not complete. We've built this out a little bit this year, but this is still a pretty common question. So if you have any questions at all during the season, please feel free to shoot me an email. Like I said, I get this question a lot, and I can help you navigate, what is allowed and what is not allowed. And we'll make sure everything's right, make sure the federal dollars are spent correctly. So just a quick note for bulk fuels here is that uh, we ask that you are working with your client to maximize the EAT benefit. So for example, that would be encouraging your client to take full deliveries, taking them during business hours, and just avoiding unnecessary fees and charges. So obviously some exceptions need to be made, especially if this is a crisis delivery or crisis situation and you're restoring service to a client. But in general, try to work with them to make that dollar go a little further and do your best. And I've seen this quite a bit during the season, and quite a lot of you do this really well. So, but just a quick note. Okay, so the cooperation agreement. So when all our vendors, when you sign the MOA, you agree to share data with our local service agencies, our local service providers, and IHCDA. So any information about energy assistance. So that could include energy consumption and cost, payment info, disconnection prevention and restoration of service info, arrearage amounts, account status, and any other data related to EAP. So this data is federally mandated, and so that's why it's in our agreement. And we've just gotten a lot of questions this year from staff attorneys, and so if your attorneys do come to you, you can always show them the MOA. You can always contact me, and we can go over it. But just so you know, if an agency asks for information about a client, you can share that on their behalf. Those clients have signed that and given them that ability. So, okay. So some common questions and common issues there. Do we have any questions on that? Yeah. Alrighty. We do a quick overview here. So let's go over our transmittal process a little bit. So the transmittal process is our official record of the benefit for which a client has been approved. So if there's ever a discrepancy between the pledge that you've received from your agency and the amount that's on the transmittal amount is considered the correct amount. So transmittals are not valid for payment until they have been signed by both a representative of the LSP and a representative from the vendor. So any changes made to the transmittal need to be made prior to that execution. And all local agencies have been instructed to ensure that transmittals are generated and sent out at least on a weekly basis. So it is your responsibility as the vendor to fully review every single transmittal before signing it. You should ensure that the client is a customer of yours, ensure that their name, address, account numbers are correct, ensure that they have a currently active account and that they're not scheduled for disconnect at the customer's request. So if there are any errors on accounts that need to be removed, it's your responsibility to mark those changes on the transmittal and adjust that total amount before signing and returning it to the agency. So if you're using the vendor portal, it mostly does it on its own, just a couple clicks. So vendors are required to return your transmittals within 7 days, and we'd hope maybe a little quicker than that. But pledges must be applied at the time of transmittal. Some vendors have agreements with their LSP to deliver fuel at the time of the pledge, and that is not required, but we do support that. So thank you. So every once in a while, you might receive what is called a negative transmittal. This occurs when an LSP has discovered an error has been made in benefit or eligibility determination, and they send that negative transmittal, usually with an overpayment remittance form. So When a vendor receives a negative transmittal, that you just follow the exact same transmittal procedure. After returning the signed negative transmittal to the LSP, the vendor also should sign the overpayment remittance. And the signed overpayment remittance is to be sent with a check to IHCDA to be reinvested in the program. So at that point, vendors are justified in passing charges onto the customer after returning any funds. So this can happen if an applicant was accidentally awarded more funds than they were eligible for, or they were approved for funds when they were later found to actually, in fact, not be eligible. So any delinquency caused by the removal of an overpayment from the customer's account becomes the customer's responsibility to pay. So you're not holding that at the end. So just a couple more notes on this process. So in order to keep payments on time and not negatively affect customers and clients, we ask that all vendors return signed transmittals within 1 week, so 7 days. You should be receiving a claim notification email, which shows each transmittal that has been approved for payment and the total of each transmittal. So those emails come from reset@ihcda.in.gov. And then you use those emails in conjunction with the transmittal reports for distributing the funds and reconciling your claims. So if you are not receiving this email from Reset at IHCDA, please contact me. It's extremely important. Anytime I know there's always a lot of movement in your staff. And so if you are updating staff, you've changed staff, please let me know. I can always help you update those and make sure everybody's getting the information that they need. And I don't actually think that there's a limit to how many staff can receive those. So we could find the limit. So let me know. So please remember that no LIHEAP funds are ever to be released back to the customer. All unused funds are to be sent back to IHCDA within 60 days of an account closing. That's a very common question that I do receive. Yes, funds should never be paid out to a client. They should always be reinvested. Okay. Any questions on the transmittal process? Okay. Courtney asks, hello, if we need to send payment back to you due to customer moving or closing an account, do we send the overpayment form as well? Do you know if Feral Gas has been doing this already? I'm thinking we do have that overpayment form included, right, Tom?
So yeah, so that register that Henry went over would be filled out whenever you're sending back funds for any reason. I know that our database EAP Connect will generate an overpayment remittance form, which is a little bit different from that register form when it's an overpayment. But in the case of someone closing their account or moving and closing their account, either closing their account voluntarily or because they've moved, that would be a refund, not an overpayment. So you wouldn't see that remittance form. But regardless, we would really need that spreadsheet to be filled out, because that tells us that gives us a breakdown of what exactly is contained in that funding that you're returning to us, and it allows our accounting department to put those funds back in the correct account, which is a federal requirement for us. We need to kind of be able to close that out and to be able to tell them, okay, these funds came from this year, while these funds came from this other year. And also in the case of the applicant actually moving and establishing heating with a different vendor, that tells us how much we have from that specific client to be able to forward to the new vendor.
Thank you. And perfect work. She asked, perfect, where can we access that spreadsheet? I may have missed that part. It's actually on our vendor resource page, and I'll have, when I send all these recordings out and send out these PowerPoint cards, I will have a link to that resource page. It lives there all the time, but if you're ever in question, you can always email me and I can send you a copy. And as to whether Feral Gas has been doing this, assume so. Usually operations emails me when they're missing some of the information. So, and I have not seen any of that. So hopefully that's good. Cool. Great questions. Thank you. Okay. So let's move on to the vendor portal here. So for those that don't know, we have a online portal for managing, editing, signing, returning, and monitoring your transmittals. This now includes a list of all your clients that have applied. So as soon as a client hits send on their application, that name will show up in your list. And anytime you get a new transmittal, it will send you an email notification, so you don't have to constantly monitor this website or anything like that. Yeah, this is something that we're moving towards. We're moving to get these transmittals out of people's emails and get them online where they're easier to manage, and a lot less manual work. So this is a good way of building some efficiency for your teams. So you do need to opt in for access. You can email the vendor email at vendors@ihcda.in.gov. That's the inbox that I monitor. So you can email that. You can email me directly for access. I have training guides. I can help you troubleshoot, get you onboarded. It's a very simple website on its face. It doesn't have a huge amount of functionality, so it's not overwhelming or anything like that to use. And we're starting to get some real buy-in from on both sides, so from our agencies and our other vendors. So this can be a good way to work on your processes. So just let me know if you would like access. Okay, so some vendor guide and other resources. So we have totally changed our vendor guide, and that is now online. So our team worked really hard to change this and update this vendor guide. We encourage you to consult it, and before you ask any policies or procedure questions, most of that stuff is listed in there, common questions, common issues. We really wanted to create this document so that if you were new to this program, you would be able to give this to somebody on your staff or take this on when you first come to this program, read through this, and have a pretty good understanding of how the program works. And I think we've mostly accomplished that. So take a look at it. This is actually one of the links to our resource page, and that is where it lives. But I can always send it to you if you need it. Yeah, that's a great resource for new old hands. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about vendor monitoring and performance measures. So what is vendor monitoring? So vendor monitoring ensures compliance with the LIHEAP program by the utility vendor. It's an opportunity to improve processes, and it lets us know where areas of confusion or additional assistance are needed. So vendor monitoring is a federally mandated component of the LIHEAP statute and is indicated in our MOA. All vendors that participate in the state of Indiana's LIHEAP program are subject to vendor monitoring. That doesn't mean you will be selected, but it does mean you are subject to it. So monitoring is conducted as a desktop review by the vendor analyst, which is me. And we'll go over the process here a little bit. So what happens is you receive an email letter from me notifying you of this monitoring session. You're required to submit a list of documentation to us, and then and also includes a survey from us as well. So all vendors being monitored receive an assessment completion report within 30 days of that review being done. And some best practices. So all vendors should create written processes to promote consistency and program integrity. In turn, those processes are submitted at the time of monitoring to show your utilities processes and program compliance. So all vendors should perform internal quality assurance audits on each customer accounts. All vendors should create a system to ensure that unallowable expenses are not being paid. And all vendors should create a 3-year record retention and destruction policy for all EAP documentation, including electronic documentation. So all vendors should strive to meet all reporting deadlines, and then this allows IHCDA to fulfill federal reporting requirements and make effective program changes. So yes, this is required if you're selected. Let's talk about performance measures. This is a little different. So this is also this data collection is also mandated by the LIHEAP statute. Every year, we ask several vendors to submit performance measured data, which includes providing annual energy usage and costs for all customers who receive LIHEAP benefits. And we cross-reference that data with our annual income calculations. So the purpose of that is to demonstrate a reduction of energy burden, and then in turn helps us in crafting our policy. So yeah. Does anybody have questions on any of that? Moving right along today. So let's talk about 211 a little bit. So if you don't know, 211 is a phone number that any Hoosier can call. It's statewide. And 211 is a great resource for finding local resources to help people in need. So one of the benefits of 211 now is that your client can call 211 and start their EAP application on the phone. So they will be able to, so this is a great opportunity for people who struggle with computers, who may not have an agency nearby, any of the above. So they will still have to submit some documentation to their local service provider, so their local agency, but they'll be able to complete their application over the phone. So it's a great benefit for people. So just a couple do's and don'ts. So 211 does not have access to completed applications or their status once it's been submitted. So all those questions need to be directed to their local agency. So 211 also does not process any application. They only complete it over the phone and then submit it to the local agency. So so if you have a client that has applied over the phone and they come back to you with questions, don't send them back to 211. Always refer them back to their agency. Otherwise, they're just going to be sent in a circle. That can be very frustrating for clients. So all their questions can be answered by the agency. Okay. So EAP information on vendor websites can be a great way to assist your clients. If your clients are in need, your website is probably one of the first places that they go. So having helpful links and information about this program on there can be really helpful. Some companies already have this information on there. And so if so, we ask that you review that information on a yearly basis, make sure links are accurate, make sure dates and times are accurate. You could put information for your local agencies or 211 up there. I would ask that you don't necessarily link people back to IHCDA unless that's to find their local agency. But maybe having a link to the application page, that might be great as well once that goes live. So if you have questions on this, let me know and I can help. So with that, we also have some marketing information that is readily available. So this one's a little outdated, so it's being updated now, but it will be up before the season starts. There's all different kinds of marketing materials that you can put in your office or send to your clients, or just hand out as needed, whatever it might be, or link it on your website. So lots of options. And if you have questions, you can always let me know and we can work together and find a solution that works for you. Okay, let's go over some contact protocols. Who should you contact? So instances where your agency should be contacted. Questions about specific clients or households, questions about benefits, questions about submissions of transmittals, confirming application status, notifications of suspected customer meter tampering or unauthorized use when that customer is an EAP client or applicant. You should contact the IHCDA when you have questions about payments that you're unable to answer after reviewing your transmittals and claim approval emails. If you have questions about moratorium, which does not apply to you, or any MOA terms. If you have general issues with your local agency, that would be helpful to loop us in on. follow-ups on refunds or energy benefit transfers, and any suspicion of fraud or misconduct at the local agency level. So this was actually something that came up this year. We had a vendor that saw some irregularities at a local agency. It set off an investigation and was successful. So we all have a duty to protect our federal dollars from fraud. So, keep an eye out. For assistance for clients, like I said earlier, 211 is a great resource for them, but most of your referrals for clients are going to go to their local agency. So, yep. Okay, just a couple of tidbits here. So your clients should never be directly referred to IHCDA, either by phone or email. So they should always be sent to their agency. We do have a dedicated vendor inbox now that is vendors@ihcda.in.gov. That is the email inbox that I monitor. You might also hear from the eep@ihcda.in.gov. But generally speaking, if you're having issues, I would say if you're in doubt, loop IHCDA in. If you're having problems with your agency, if you need clarity on something, shoot us a message and then let's have a conversation before things move on or before things escalate. I can help mediate. I can help work out any issues you're having with the local agencies, but I can't do that unless you let me know. So. All right. So this is going to be our Q&A section. So before we wrap up, so if you have any questions, now's the time. But we'll take a second here. You can put them in the chat. Can you raise the hand function? Pretty quiet group today. Okay. Got one more slide in case anybody's got any other questions. Yeah. So let me just take this moment to thank you all for attending this short and sweet training. And thank you for all the hard work you're doing this year for our Hoosiers. Kind of as I was saying earlier, my role here as the vendor analyst is to assist you in issues you're having and answer any questions and help with the energy assistance program. So I'm a quick email or phone call away. Please contact me if you're having any of those issues. Here I've listed the vendor's inbox again. And this will also have links to our EAP resource page and our vendor portal login. So if you want access to our vendor portal, also shoot me a message. I will be sending out recordings of this training and all the cards probably sometime next week, and then they will also be hosted online for your review. So if you have questions, you can ask them. Otherwise, I hope everybody has a great day. Take care. Thank you.